linked up Tamara to Mr. Rajiv, who's the founder of the Mayura chain of restaurants. Mr. Rajiv is an electronics engineer by profession and has an MBA from New Delhi, India. Prior to getting into business, he has worked with renowned national and international companies, including those in the Fortune 500 companies for over 2 decades.
How are you doing?
Hello, Jan. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Nice seeing you.
Good to see you too.
Finally.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
My name is Taman.
Hi, Taman.
How are you?
Welcome to the Mayura.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Mr. Rajiv, the interesting thing is that she's also in the restaurant business.
Oh,
she does
okay.
silent dishes, small scale.
Hey,
So you
good for you.
Thank you.
So all making specialized food. So I want you guys to go have a conversation around the restaurant business.
No, it'll be
and-
my pleasure.
Yes. So teach her a few tips here and there.
No, sure. Let me
All
spend some time with her
Yeah, so I'll
while
leave
you
you guys-
go and enjoy
One of
one of
the-
our butter chickens and naan, which is a
Some
classic
flavors.
dish.
I love naan.
Way to go. Come,
All right.
please, welcome. Hi, Tamara.
How are you?
Welcome to the Mayura.
Thank you very much.
I hope you like what you see.
I do actually. It's really amazing.
You're really welcome.
Yeah, so I'm here to learn a few things from you.
It'll be a pleasure.
I'm in small scale business, so I needed to learn some few things from someone like you who is in a big, large business.
Well, it'll be my pleasure. If I can help you with a few things, why not?
Okay, thank you. So, how did Mayura come into place?
Well, my background has been a corporate professional. So I have been working with most of the large corporates for the last 18 years before I started venturing into this business. So I was in Africa with Airtel, which was my last corporate assignment. And then after the Airtel stint, the option was to go back to India and start working again, which wasn't really my first choice of preference because I wanted to do something of my own. And therefore, when I looked at the landscape around and when I was looking for the opportunities around, food business looked very interesting to me, and for a couple of reasons. One, I love interacting with people, so I always wanted a business which allows me to interact directly with my customers, and this is one business which you cannot do without interacting with customers. And I think the second criteria for me was to establish something which is scalable. This is one business where you will soon realize that sky is the limit. You can expand as much as you can potentially handle. Third was also the fact that at the end of the day, since you are investing your own capital, you have to ensure the profitability of the business as well before your capital runs out.
Actually, I've worked for I think 5 years in employment.
Oh, so that's something similar between
Similar, yeah. And then 2 years at Big Square. I was also an area manager there. Then that's when I decided to quit and do some business. So when I was starting this business, I got capital from my mom. I had to go back to my mother and ask for a capital to start my business. How did you start yours?
Well, that's how most businesses start, Tamara, to be honest. But since you mentioned capital, obviously when a business is new and when you're starting, capital is the most important thing because you don't have access to a lot of external funding. Banks would not allow you or give you a lot of credit because you do not have a standing to back up. And therefore, much of these small scale businesses really start from your own savings or equity from friends and family. And that's exactly how I started. But I think what I have learned from establishing a business which has now reached a certain scale, and I've always drawn this simile in my mind, and it might help you when you're scaling up, that the capital of a business is really like a runway at an airport. And why I say that is because all of the planning stage which goes before you actually start spending money on your business is really the prep phase. You're refueling the plane, you're checking in your customers, you're looking at the environment, you're looking at the weather, everything is okay. Once you decide to taxi and once you put the plane on the runway, which is equivalent to investing your first dollar. And whenever you invest your first dollar into the business is like putting your plane on the runway. And then your capital is the length of the runway, which means once you've started investing, you have to take off within that available runway, which means whatever capital you have with you, you have to get the business running within that capital.
What I'm going through right now, it's a kind of a challenge when it comes to purchasing and my expenditure. So at first when I began with, I bought a bulk stock, but it wasn't that much that would last me for maybe 2 months or maybe a month. No, I just bought a stock of maybe 2 weeks. And then when it was growing and growing, it reached a point where I started getting things at on retail price, which at a time it made me start getting losses. Actually, there was a point I was even giving up completely. So when you are starting up, how are you going about your purchasing and your expenditure?
So good question, Tawara, because in any business, very simply speaking, there are only two sides. One is your revenue, the other is expense, right? And therefore you have to have a hawk's eye on both the sides, otherwise profitability will always suffer. Now obviously, you have to maximize your revenue, at the same time you have to lower your cost. And when it comes to purchasing and stock control, a few things that I have learned the hard way, I would say, in my business is number one, you have to be very conscious of your cost of food which is going into your end product. So whatever pricing you're doing for your end products, you have to ensure that the costing of the food is well within the limits that will allow you a certain leverage of profitability. Because and the rule of thumb is really 33, 33, 33, I would say, which is if your end product retail price to the customer is 100, then your cost of food cannot exceed 33, 35. Because the moment you go above that, you've got other expenses to meet, you've got rentals, you've got salaries, you've got other administrative expenses, and then you've got to pay taxes, and then you have to manage your profitability. So I think it's extremely important that you keep the cost under control. Now, how do you do that? One, of course, is go right down to the source. So one of the things that I am very conscious of, that I generally try and go right to the source. So if there is a distributor, I try and find out who's he buying from. If I can go to the second level, I try and find out who's he buying from. So as you progress in your business, if you can incrementally get closer to the source, you will reduce your cost. And each shilling, matters when it comes to restaurants and bulk purchasing. So one is food cost. The second very important thing that you need to look at is pilferage. Because in this business, there is a lot of pilferage. And I wouldn't say pilferage means, someone is stealing or someone is, doing a fraud, which also happens, by the way. So, but it also means a lot of wastage, So, if you can control the wastage, that's stock to the bottom line, and that's saving on the cost.
I'll take note of everything that you've told me. Sure. I am really inspiring to be the next you and other people.
Well, I would say you should set your goals a little higher. Because if you're new, then as I said earlier, sky is the limit.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate.
Pleasure.
Okay. Thank you. So after meeting and having a conversation with Mr. Rajiv, I've learned very important things that I was having a challenge on, especially when it comes to costing. I almost gave up on my business. But having that conversation with him, I've learned how to cost my products, how I'm going to deal with my purchasing and all that. And also in marketing, how I'm going to market myself and how I'm going to get new clientele. I've really learned a lot and I really appreciate. I look forward to being in business for a very long time and being a very successful entrepreneur person. Thank you.
On the Hustle Hangout this week, I interact with Ferdinand Chisori, who's a second-hand shoe dealer making strides in his hustle. So Ferdinand, leo tumekam kwa shop. Na kuna mabidhaa hapa around.
Kuna bidhaa.
So na deal na nini exactly?
Na deal na manguo. Kuna manguo mpya, kuna mtush, kuna viatu pia, na deal na mpya, kuna mtush pia.
So ni combination. Na sasa busy ilianza lini?
Hii business nimeanza miaka 3 iliyopita.
Nilifanya ingie kwa hii business.
Hii nilifanya ingia hii business nilikuwa nikifanya bookshop. Lakini nilikuwa na bit kufanyia mtu kazi
ni noma.
Sawa, ni noma sana. Juu unajua mshahara pia kwa down.
Ulikuwa kula how much back in the day? 7K a month.
Namkanga 5, naenda soko, naenda unasort viatu. Kuna place huko ya kuassemble. Unaenda zinawashwa, kama kuna za kupigwa rangi zinapigwa rangi. Then kuna zile za kuosha za kukauka. Kikauka ndio unatoka huko. Sasa ukienda 5 unaweza toka kitu kama saa 7.
Una marketing aje bidhi?
Kwa Instagram.
Modern na mavijana hapo ndo wako. Alafu tuseme in a month ulikuwa unaambianga ukiwanga job ulikuwa unapata 7K a month. So biashara iko aje sasa?
Biashara iko poa.
So on average tuseme month moja unaweza ingiza ngapi kwa hustle yako?
Kwa hustle a month unaweza ingiza kama 20-25.
In the next couple of years utakuwa wapi?
Nataka ku expand space. Kwanza unaona niko na limited space. Nataka space kubwa. Alafu niongeze stock. Alafu sometimes viatu naendeanga Uganda.
Ushaanza kufanya international business.
Wanga naendea. Hata last year nimeendea lakini zikaisha. So nilikuwa najipanga niende zingine.
We've come to the end of the show and hope you've learned a thing or two from the conversation between Mr. Rajiv and Tamara. And right now, hope you're inspired to go out there and set up your restaurant business. And also hope you've been inspired by the Hustle Hangout segment. If you're an entrepreneur out there who runs a unique business or you want us to share your hustle, please feel free to reach to us via our social media handles. The handles are running below the screen. And also remember each and every Wednesday to grab a copy of The Standard to read the Business Coach column. My name is Ian Dennis and this has been The Business Coach, where we help entrepreneurs better their businesses. Here are events happening within the month. On July 6th, there will be a 5-minute Pitch Your Company event to be held at the Kemu Towers, Nairobi from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. hosted by Perigen Limited. On July 19th and 20th, there will be an Awaken the Tech Zone Within conference to be held at the Michael Joseph Center from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. On June 29th, there will be a Financial Independence Retire Early workshop to be hosted at the After 40 Hotel by Savo Group. If you'd like us to mention your event or that the Business Coach be a part of your event, feel free to reach us on our social media handles.